Typically and historically, if you don't find your victim after 72 hours, the probability of you getting that victim back safe and sound is not good.
Savannah's latest video, it's almost like she's acknowledging that there's a real possibility now that, Nancy is no longer with us.
Explosive developments are unfolding in Nancy's case, with new information now confirmed through reliable sources. Jim Parker here with NCC News, reporting that investigators have made notable changes behind the scenes. According to officials familiar with the case, both the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office have adjusted their resources as the investigation moves into a new phase. Authorities are also taking a closer look at the suspect photo that has raised fresh questions. Many observers have focused on what appears to be an antenna-like object visible in the individual's pocket. A retired FBI agent and former intelligence officer reviewed the image and shared professional insight into what that object could be, offering context based on experience in federal investigations. As the case reaches day 28, law enforcement agencies are reassessing strategy and coordination. Sources indicate these internal adjustments are designed to strengthen the ongoing effort and clarify next steps. NCC News will continue tracking verified updates as investigators move forward with this evolving case. Behind-the-scenes adjustments are now reshaping how Nancy's case is being handled, according to multiple reliable sources. Jim Parker with NCC News, reporting that some FBI personnel have returned to Phoenix as part of a strategic shift. Officials indicate investigators are reviewing thousands of hours of recorded footage, widely believed to include traffic camera video and other public surveillance sources. Sources close to the investigation say this move is not expected to slow progress. While the visible presence in Tucson may appear reduced, a dedicated team of FBI agents remains on the ground.
There's a couple things that don't sit right with me about this case. One of the things is the lack of communications between the kidnapper or the abductor and the family. I believe that the person who perpetrated this crime either knew them directly, knew her directly, or had inside information about that home or that family.
At the same time, the Pima County Sheriff's Office continues assigning detectives to the case, though not at the earlier level when nearly the entire department was focused on it. Authorities confirm that resources are being balanced to ensure other local cases also receive attention. Community members have expressed concern about overall coverage, and officials say this measured reallocation is intended to maintain public safety while keeping Nancy's case a priority. Day 28 marks a critical moment in Nancy's case, and time is drawing serious attention. Jim Parker with NCC News, reporting that while many investigations see breakthroughs early on, authorities do not consider this a cold case. Sources close to the matter stress that the investigation remains active and ongoing, even if progress has taken longer than many expected. Viewers have raised several questions, especially as national and international headlines have shifted media focus elsewhere. Despite broader global coverage dominating the news cycle, officials confirm the case remains under steady review. Reduced media presence on the ground does not reflect reduced investigative effort, according to those familiar with the process. There is also renewed interest in details surrounding the suspect image, including questions about what appears to be inside the individual's pocket. To better understand that detail, insight was provided by Tracy Walder, a former FBI agent and former CIA officer, who offered professional analysis based on her investigative background. NCC News will continue presenting verified developments as this case moves forward. Questions are intensifying over a small but striking detail in the suspect image connected to Nancy's case. Jim Parker with NCC News, reporting that discussion has centered on what appears to be a thin antenna-like object visible in the individual's pocket. According to professional analysis from former FBI agent and former CIA officer Tracy Walder, the object could reasonably be interpreted in more than one way. While it is impossible to confirm exactly what is visible in the image, experts say it could resemble a handheld communication device. Such equipment can be used for short-range coordination, which investigators often consider when reviewing complex cases involving possible assistance. Walder also noted that some observers have compared the object to a signal-disrupting device. While that comparison has circulated online, she emphasized that without physical evidence, any conclusion would remain speculative. Investigators continue to evaluate all possibilities carefully as they assess the broader circumstances surrounding the case. A new layer of analysis is shedding light on what the suspect may or may not have carried that day. Jim Parker with NCC News, reporting that experts reviewing the case believe it is unlikely the individual brought a personal cell phone to the scene. According to former FBI agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder, if a phone had been active, location tracking tools such as geofencing could have potentially identified it by now. Geofencing technology, which reviews digital signals within a defined area and time frame, has been used in other major investigations. Walder noted that unusual phone activity patterns can draw attention, including devices that appear inactive for specific windows of time. In this case, investigators are expected to examine that possibility closely once a suspect is formally identified. Attention has also turned to reports of a large, full backpack. Walder explained that such an item could suggest preparation, possibly containing tools or materials intended to assist in carrying out a plan. However, she emphasized that these remain professional assessments based on experience, not confirmed evidence in Nancy's case. Authorities continue evaluating every detail carefully as the investigation moves forward. New expert insight is raising serious questions about what may have been inside the suspect's backpack. Jim Parker with NCC News, reporting that former FBI agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder suggested the bag could have contained restraint items or materials intended to control a situation. She noted that bulky items, such as folded coverings, could also explain why the backpack appeared so full in images reviewed by investigators. Walder emphasized the emotional weight surrounding this case, especially as loved ones publicly acknowledged the difficult possibilities. Unlike investigations where clear physical evidence brings a sense of closure, this case remains open without confirmed answers. That uncertainty makes discussions especially sensitive, as officials balance compassion with a careful review of facts. Attention has also focused on the reported $1 million reward. Experts confirm that federal agencies do provide methods for individuals to share information confidentially. Anonymous tips can be submitted through established channels, allowing people to come forward with critical details while maintaining privacy protections under federal guidelines. Serious questions remain about how anonymous tips are handled in high-profile investigations like Nancy's case. Jim Parker, with NCC News, reporting that according to former FBI agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder, federal authorities typically learn a tipster's identity during the process. However, she explained that the FBI can protect that person's name from becoming public, provided the individual was not involved in any wrongdoing. Walder noted there are multiple legal pathways investigators can use, depending on the circumstances. While complete anonymity from law enforcement may not always be guaranteed, strong safeguards are in place to shield cooperative individuals from public exposure. These protections are designed to encourage people with credible information to come forward without fear of widespread disclosure. Officials continue urging anyone with verified information to use established reporting channels. As the investigation moves forward, law enforcement agencies remain focused on gathering reliable leads while maintaining appropriate confidentiality standards under federal guidelines. All promotional segments have been removed to maintain focus on the facts surrounding Nancy's case. This report contains no sponsored content, discount offers, or product endorsements. The priority remains clear and responsible coverage of verified developments. Discussions about meal services, subscription codes, or personal data products are not relevant to the investigation and have been excluded. Viewers deserve straightforward reporting centered only on confirmed information and credible analysis. As the case continues to unfold, coverage will remain dedicated to factual updates and professional standards, without commercial interruptions or outside promotions influencing the discussion. All promotional references and discount offers have been removed to maintain a clear focus on the investigation. This report contains no external links, codes, or product mentions, keeping attention strictly on verified case developments. Attention is now turning to the Impact of the $1 million reward. Experts say reward amounts can sometimes motivate individuals to share critical information, especially in the early stages of an investigation. However, as more time passes, the psychological impact of a reward may shift. Former federal officials note that some individuals may hesitate if they believe investigators are still building their case. Others may question whether coming forward could carry personal consequences. While it has not yet been a full month, authorities continue to assess whether the increased reward will generate new leads as the case moves forward. Early reward momentum can be critical in major investigations, and timing often shapes the outcome. Jim Parker reporting that some experts believe financial incentives tend to be most effective in the first weeks of a case. Comparisons have been made to other high-profile investigations, where authorities shared limited public details, yet later revealed substantial behind-the-scenes progress. In this situation, analysts note there has been debate about investigative communication and strategy. While limited information does not necessarily signal a lack of progress, some law enforcement professionals have raised concerns about certain early decisions. For example, questions have surfaced about how quickly the scene was released and whether that may have affected evidence control. Experts emphasize that withholding specific details can protect an active case, but procedural choices must balance transparency with preservation of facts. As the investigation continues, authorities remain under scrutiny to ensure each step supports a strong and sustainable resolution. Concerns about coordination and investigative decisions are drawing fresh attention in Nancy's case. Jim Parker reporting that some experts believe internal disagreements or procedural missteps can create challenges during complex investigations. While differences in approach do not automatically undermine a case, professionals note that consistency and clear direction are essential from the start. Recent drone footage showing a final walkthrough of the home also raised questions. Observers noticed individuals in formal business attire, later identified by sources as U.S. attorneys. Experts clarify that such visits are not unusual. When a case may move toward prosecution, attorneys often review the scene firsthand to better understand evidence and layout. Former federal officials explained that this step can support future legal proceedings, especially before a property is released. Direct review, including advanced modeling methods, helps prosecutors prepare thoroughly. Analysts stress that this process is considered standard practice and does not indicate any negative development in the investigation. The presence of attorneys at the home does not automatically signal that charges are imminent. Jim Parker reporting that experts say the walkthrough appears to reflect procedure rather than a breakthrough. According to former federal officials, after nearly a month of detailed processing, investigators have likely collected the physical evidence they needed from the property. Professionals familiar with major cases explain that 3 to 4 weeks is a common time frame for carefully examining a scene of this scale. Once evidence collection is complete, the location may no longer be required for investigative purposes. A final visit by attorneys before release can help them understand the setting in preparation for any potential legal steps. As for the decision to release the house, analysts note that agencies can retain control of a scene if necessary. However, if biological and digital materials have already been secured, releasing the property would not be considered unusual. At this stage, experts say the move appears consistent with standard investigative practice. New questions are emerging about the reported use of polygraph tests in Nancy's case. Jim Parker reporting that sources previously indicated polygraphs were administered during the investigation. While local officials referenced routine testing for new hires, other reports suggest separate examinations may have been conducted at a different time, possibly involving federal authorities. Former federal agent Tracy Walder explained that not all polygraphs are the same. During her service, she underwent extensive lifestyle polygraphs that lasted several hours and examined broad background factors. However, she noted that such lengthy exams would not typically be used in a case like this. Instead, experts say investigators often rely on shorter, focused polygraph sessions, sometimes lasting under an hour. These are generally used as investigative tools to help assess credibility and narrow down a large volume of leads. While not definitive proof, professionals say they can assist in guiding further inquiry as authorities work through numerous potential sources of information. Polygraph testing remains a strategic tool in narrowing down leads, but it does not determine guilt or innocence. Jim Parker reporting that experts say these exams are often used for investigative triage. If someone answers basic questions without raising concern, investigators may choose not to prioritize that individual immediately, while still keeping all options open. Former federal officials stress that polygraph results are generally not admissible in court. They are meant to guide investigators, not replace evidence. As for those who decline to participate, experts say reactions can vary. Some individuals may refuse out of anxiety or fear, given the intimidating nature of the process. Others, in certain cases, may decline for more complicated reasons. Tracy Walder also shared her own experience with extensive federal polygraphs required for high-level security clearances. She explained that lifestyle polygraphs for sensitive roles can last hours and cover broad background topics. In her case, an initial result required a follow-up session before final clearance was granted, highlighting how detailed and demanding the process can be. Intense polygraph procedures can test even the most composed individuals under pressure. Jim Parker reporting that former federal agent Tracy Walder described how high-level clearance exams often cover a wide range of personal background topics, including past drug use and other lifestyle questions. She explained that the purpose is not judgment, but full disclosure for security evaluation. Walder shared that during one examination, she faced difficulty when a truthful answer was questioned. She stated she had never used drugs, yet the examiner initially expressed doubt. The stress of being challenged, she said, caused normal physical reactions, such as increased heart rate, which led to an inconclusive result and required a second session. Federal guidelines generally allow consideration of past behavior within specific timeframes, depending on the type of substance and recency. Walder ultimately returned for a follow-up exam and received clearance. She recalled feeling significant anxiety beforehand, highlighting how demanding and mentally exhausting the process can be even for qualified candidates. Polygraphs may draw public curiosity, but experts say they are far from comfortable experiences. Jim Parker reporting that former federal agent Tracy Walder described them as stressful and demanding, even when a person is being truthful. She noted that once examiners were satisfied with her responses, her results were ultimately accepted. Turning back to Nancy's case, analysts say major developments in complex investigations can unfold without warning. In other high-profile cases, arrests have occurred after weeks of limited public updates, shifting the narrative in a single day. Experts suggest a similar pattern could happen here, with law enforcement maintaining operational discretion until action is ready to be taken. Authorities are reportedly proceeding with caution, treating the situation with urgency while protecting sensitive details. If a significant move occurs, observers say it would likely be swift and coordinated. At the same time, investigators recognize that some cases require extended timelines, and outcomes can emerge either suddenly or after prolonged review. Heartbreak and frustration are growing as Nancy's case remains unresolved after weeks of intense attention. Jim Parker reporting that many observers are questioning how, despite extensive federal resources and advanced technology, an arrest has not yet been made. Experts caution that even with significant manpower, early timing can dramatically affect outcomes. Analysts point to what may have been a several-hour head start before authorities were fully engaged. In complex cases, those first critical hours can shape the entire trajectory of an investigation. Additionally, if an incident is initially assessed under a different classification, that early interpretation can influence response strategy and speed. While technology today offers powerful tracking and forensic tools, experts emphasize that results are not always immediate. Many believe progress could surface unexpectedly, even if it feels quiet now. Questions also remain about early ransom communications sent to media outlets, with investigators still determining whether those messages were connected or unrelated to the core case. New analysis suggests early ransom messages may not have been connected to Nancy's disappearance after all. Jim Parker reporting that some experts now believe those communications were likely unrelated. Authorities were required to treat them as credible until proven otherwise. a process that may have added valuable days to the investigative timeline. As for possible motives, professionals are weighing several theories. One expert strongly doubts the idea of a random burglary, noting that such incidents rarely involve removing a victim from the scene. Instead, investigators often look for signs of targeting or personal fixation when circumstances appear highly specific. Some analysts have raised the possibility that the act was directed at the family due to perceived grievances or obsession. They stress, however, that responsibility rests solely with the individual involved. While no theory has been confirmed, experts describe the situation as unusually focused, reinforcing the belief that this was not a random event. This was not a random house someone simply chose without purpose, experts emphasize. Jim Parker reporting that analysts continue to question the idea of a spontaneous break-in, pointing instead to signs suggesting deliberate selection. Following extended discussion with former federal agent Tracy Walder, several viewer questions have also been addressed. One difficult possibility raised was whether Nancy may have passed away before being removed from the property. Experts acknowledge that scenario cannot be ruled out. They note that certain items previously discussed, such as materials that could assist in transport, have fueled that concern. Visible evidence outside the home has also contributed to ongoing speculation, though no official confirmation has been made. As for family members Andy and Tommaso, sources indicate their vehicle remains in evidence as of the latest update. There is no confirmed information that they have returned home. However, observers report that additional security measures, including new cameras, appear to have been installed at the residence. Questions continue to surface about possible legal disputes and a reported emergency call linked to Nancy's disappearance. Jim Parker reporting that a review of public court records has not revealed any ongoing legal proceedings involving Nancy or her immediate family that would suggest a motive connected to a dispute. Sources familiar with background checks say no clear indication of such issues has been identified. Another widely discussed detail involves a 911 report describing a woman allegedly calling for help from a moving vehicle shortly after Nancy was reported missing. According to verified sources, law enforcement issued an alert for that vehicle, located it, and spoke with the driver. Authorities determined the situation was not connected to Nancy's case. Officials emphasized that while such reports must be thoroughly investigated, not every incident occurring nearby is related. At this time, investigators maintain that the vehicle stop in question does not appear to have any link to the ongoing investigation. Fresh debate is growing over surveillance footage and what it may reveal about the suspect's actions. Jim Parker reporting that questions have surfaced about an object briefly placed over a front-facing camera. According to sources familiar with investigative analysis, partially covering a camera rather than removing it entirely could suggest inexperience. Professionals note that seasoned offenders typically disable or remove recording devices immediately. There have also been online claims about a back door being left open. However, that detail has not been independently confirmed through reliable sources. Investigators continue separating verified facts from speculation as the case evolves. Despite frustrations over the timeline, authorities do not consider this a cold case. While 28 days may feel lengthy to those closely following developments, experts stress that many complex investigations require sustained, methodical work before significant breakthroughs occur. Officials remain actively engaged as the inquiry moves forward. Investigators stress that extended timelines are not unusual in complex cases like this one. Jim Parker reporting that some major investigations have taken more than a month before a decisive break occurred. Experts maintain that with significant resources assigned, this case remains active and far from cold. Questions have also circulated about alleged online search records. After direct outreach, representatives indicated those claims are not verified, which is why they have not been included in confirmed reporting. Authorities continue to caution against relying on unconfirmed digital rumors. As for the large gem show happening in the area at the time, officials acknowledge it brought many out-of-town visitors. However, there is no confirmed link between that event and the investigation. Nearby construction and vacant properties have also been noted, though no evidence currently connects those locations to the case. Investigators continue examining all credible leads carefully. A key question continues to shape this investigation. If this were a kidnapping, where is the communication? Jim Parker reporting that in typical ransom cases, authorities expect demands, ongoing contact, or proof of life. To date, none of those elements have been publicly confirmed in Nancy's case. That absence has led some experts to consider whether this situation may differ from a traditional kidnapping scenario. Investigative analysts say the distinction between kidnapping and abduction can influence how cases are approached. Without verified communication or demands, professionals often reassess motive and intent. However, officials caution that conclusions cannot be drawn without confirmed evidence. On a broader note, covering cases like this presents unique challenges for journalists. Extended time in the field, distance from home, and the emotional weight of difficult stories can take a toll. Reporters say balancing persistence with sensitivity is essential, especially when families and communities are facing uncertainty and distress. Behind every headline is a human story that can weigh heavily once the cameras slow down. Jim Parker reporting that while intense coverage often keeps reporters focused on facts and deadlines, quieter moments can bring reflection. Standing outside the home, many have described imagining the events that unfolded and thinking about Nancy and her loved ones. Journalists covering long investigations say the emotional impact can surface after the pace eases. During active reporting, attention stays on gathering information and verifying details. Later, the personal reality of what a family is enduring can become more difficult to set aside. Even so, reporters acknowledge that their challenges are minor compared to what families experience. Coverage remains centered on seeking answers with care and responsibility. As the investigation continues, commitment to following verified developments remains steady, even if the timeline ahead is uncertain. A breakthrough could happen at any moment, and investigators remain prepared to respond immediately. Jim Parker reporting that while there are no current plans to step away from coverage, any major development would prompt swift updates. Authorities continue processing evidence, including advanced DNA analysis and genetic genealogy, though experts caution that those methods require time and precision. Officials emphasize that this is not considered a cold case, even if answers do not arrive in the coming days. Complex investigations can take weeks or even months before results surface. Patience and persistence remain critical as forensic work moves forward and leads are carefully reviewed. NCC News will continue tracking every verified update and forensic development. Thank you for supporting and watching this news channel. With you was NCC News and your host, Jim Parker. Stay alert, stay informed, and let's keep pushing for answers.